various scenarios as disaster mitigation planners.
Yes.
And therefore, as a result of the various scenarios, you can have an idea of the level of preparedness.
Certainly, and it's something we have been doing. What we need for our scenarios now is for them to evolve to the point where they are utilizing more data, the spatial data, data about where what types of houses are, and how these buildings will behave on the substrata depending on the type of magnitude and depth of the earthquake, and that is where we need more work to be done. And that is where resources need to be provided for agencies like the earthquake unit.
That's right.
For them to be able to provide us some of this information on the the ground acceleration and so forth, where we have monitoring stations on buildings such as the Ministry of Health buildings. So while, as I said before, the training, the knowledge, the capacity, the mechanism for coordination is there. And it's there. And in
so,
that,
so the coordination with the various persons, the coordination with people who have heavy-duty equipment.
Yes.
All those things are in place.
Those things are in place. Where we are now going to be a little bit more concerned when people talk about the level of preparedness is going to be information, scientific information, scenario information that can heighten your scenario planning to guide you as to how this coordination mechanism will function based on a particular situation.
Yes.
Right? Because if we know what buildings, while we say all the time we are better built than Haiti, we have block and steel and so forth, one has to look at superimposing the same scenario on your own environment and to see what are the issues which will come to the top and how well you will be able to respond to that given the resources that you have at your disposal. In terms of preparedness, we've been trying to push forward in getting the agencies, the community, better trained and fitted with the capacity to function as discrete cells. And that is why we invest so heavily in our community building disaster resilient communities project, because the first line of response starts at the level of the community.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break at this time to get some more views from the public, and then we come back.
I don't think we are prepared. From time to time, the emergency management people always try to, tell us what to do, but honestly, I don't think I'm really prepared for anything else.
Some people prepared, some are not.
Definitely not. Why? Look at the situation, look at the housing system around here. That's national disaster preparation? No, you're not. You're on lowland, you're not prepared for that. Go over Elshire, you're not prepared.
I don't believe so, especially against people that live close to the water and stuff like that.
To my point of view, I can't tell us why it looks like we prepare, because we're building them well strong. You see me? Yeah, we're building them having steel and all them things there.
Well, as far as me see, try to come up with them prepared for none.
I think to some point we are prepared, but I wouldn't say fully, because nobody can ever be fully prepared for a natural disaster.
Yes, we have a better system because we have a better building foundation in Jamaica.
The government supposed to have some funds to lock off a disaster and things. You see me I say? That I don't know anything can happen at any time. That disaster is a nature thing for Almighty Father. So you don't know something of the Asian and the kitty for disaster. You see me I say?
Welcome back to Issues and Answers. We're speaking to Ronald Jackson, Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. So we're hearing from the people. At the break, you touched on a very significant point, and that is the community response. I know that there is significant mobilization, at least in terms of your planning. In case of a hurricane. Is that similar with regard to the earthquake in terms of community participation, having a cadre of volunteers who would be able to help?
Very much so. I mean, that is what we're trying to build. We're trying to build that culture at the community level, or rebuild that culture, because it existed before. And, it is going to be very important, more in the face of an earthquake than in a hurricane, because if you're communication infrastructure is disrupted, if your access infrastructure is disrupted, then you are going to be within that first few hours, days, having to be self-reliant on the people on the ground.
Yes.
Now that Haiti has occurred, it has brought home to Jamaicans the fact that we are not separated from this kind of incident. It can happen to us. So that's one lesson that we must understand, that Jamaicans need to learn more about their vulnerabilities and not to become paranoid or nervous about it, but to now look at how we can collectively prepare our individual selves to be more collectively prepared as a nation. And one gentleman in your Vox Pop spoke to that. He spoke to the fact that information is provided by the agencies, but he himself wouldn't say he's prepared because he has not responded to the information that has been provided. Another lesson that I think we learned coming out of Haiti is, and we have been saying that, is the whole business of the spatial representation of our population. Port-au-Prince is a very densely populated, and that lent to the numbers that have, other than the fact that the structures were not sound.
Weak,
right? Where you have these high densities in this kind of scenario leads to greater loss of lives.
Yes.
We need to look at, in Kingston, we're trying to push too many buildings and investment into Kingston and St. Andrew, which is also prone to seismic events. Kingston and St. Andrew is prone to ground acceleration, what we call liquefaction. Similarly, Portmore.
Okay.
There are sections of Portmore. There are sections of Portmore that is reclaimed and has that issue, but not all of Portmore has that issue. We want to make that clear because oftentimes we say Portmore and have persons panicking, but there are sections of Portmore that we need to be mindful of. And so therefore it now becomes a matter of people planning, understanding what are the things they need to do to be more effective in responding to these events when they happen. And so that's another lesson, that we pay attention to the advice as to how to respond to these events. And that we look at decentralization in a number of instances. Strengthening your governance mechanism, not just in Kingston and St. Andrew, but other places, so that you have this kind of governance support. One of the things that struck me very, keenly about Haiti was that Port-au-Prince was the center of destruction, the greater Port-au-Prince area. But there was no sense that there were other parishes, states, etc., whatever they call them, able to come in and respond to support the Port-au-Prince. It may have happened, but that was not, you never got that sense and that communication. And it's something we need to be careful of and mindful as how we strengthen the units of governance and coordination outside of the center
areas.
Those are some of the initial lessons that are.
So we have learned some key lessons,
and much more, which we will share over time.
Reflected on. Thanks as usual, Ronald Jackson, Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, talking to us about the crucial issue of earthquake awareness. I'm sure that one doesn't have to try to get your attention on that issue after the Haiti disaster. We thank you for your company on Issues and Answers as usual. Next week we'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant evening.
And this is where we'll have to close the pages of this edition of Jamaica Magazine. Check us out tomorrow for another exciting program. And remember, this and other programs can be viewed online at www.jis.gov.jm. While you're at it, give us your feedback at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the team here at the JIS, I'm Samantha Allen. Have a great evening.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.